Alongside Rob Lewis, I'm Austin Price. Craven Wings Full Court Press. Tennessee is off to the Sweet 16, off to the Big Apple. I just returned, and now, Rob Lewis, you're headed there. Time to catch a Broadway play and hit up Times Square. Tennessee defeats Duke 65-52. Your overall thoughts?
Just a strong performance from Tennessee. I thought AP. I mean, I don't know. Everybody in the world was picking Duke in this one. You know, the hottest team in college basketball. Tennessee obviously, did not come into this tournament with a great deal of momentum. And man, just they were locked in from the start today. It was an impressive showing. I mean, it was a win that was totally in character with them. I mean, they held Duke to a season low, 52 points. And then, had plenty of offense themselves today. I mean, they didn't, score 80 or anything, but Olivier and Camelot just put on an absolute show.
You're right. He did. And it was Santi in the first half. He came out, stayed out of foul trouble. The one foul he did get in the first half was kind of a phantom call, I thought.
Since I was courtside, I didn't see the replay. The ball just hit the kid in the face, right?
I mean, if it did, it barely grazed, and then he acted like he was,
had been shot. Yeah,
been shot from the rafters. I love the whole narrative pregame is how hot they were and all these freshmen and everything, and then at halftime, all of a sudden, it's like, well, poor Duke, they've got youngsters, and Tennessee's got grown men. Well, I mean, we knew that going into the game, Rob. I mean, everybody knew Tennessee was the senior-laden team, and Duke had all the freshmen. It didn't craft the narrative until all of a sudden Tennessee was ahead at the half, and then you're right. Olivier balled in the second half, and clearly he and Santi make this team go. Olivier with his 12 to 15 to 16 footers, and today threes, around the elbow, and then Santi knocking down threes himself.
Yeah, I think that what you mentioned about the freshmen, I think that I don't want to say that Tennessee felt disrespected, but I mean, I think they came to this game thinking along exactly the same as you are. Like, hey, they've got a bunch of kids out there, and we've got a bunch of guys that have been through the battles for 4 years. I think that was very much part of their mindset. I think Olivier was intent on taking it to Filipowski, probably the kid that has the highest profile of anybody in this game. And I thought that what you're saying, I thought that showed up. I mean, Tennessee's physicality was just the difference between them and Duke. It was night and day. And I kind of thought that Duke might be ready for it because they play Virginia twice a year.
Yeah.
And just played them, last week in the ACC championship game, but they weren't ready for what Tennessee put on them today.
No, and again, when Olivier started knocking down shots, it just changed the demeanor of Tennessee in that second half. I will say this: I really thought, even though he played limited minutes, I thought Julian Phillips played good defense, didn't have any stupid plays, had the two nice dunks, especially that follow-up on a miss when Duke had made a little bit of a run. Little things like that I thought, really helped Tennessee. Tyreek Key missed some shots. He made that three late in the first half.
He picked up the same one.
Found some key shots there at different parts of that second half, and really during the entire game, they kind of propelled them to the Sweet 16 bid.
Yeah, and just talking about shot, AP, it happened early. It was in the first half, but if you remember, Tennessee had gone through that scoring drought about 5 minutes or so, and Duke, it was early. I mean, Tennessee was ahead 13-10. Duke goes on a little run, a 9-0 run. They go up 19-13. Tennessee hadn't scored in a long time, and Santi drilled a three. And at that point, that's when Tennessee took off in that 14-2 run to close the half. And the game wasn't over right then. Certainly, when Tennessee was up 27-21, but man, they took a ton of momentum into that halftime locker room and just never let Duke get it back.
Be interested to see who Tennessee plays. We got a text in our, we have a couple of Volquesters that text us group from time to time. We had one last night that, Duke. And I said, no, Tennessee, this team's an enigma. Like, you just when you think you got them figured out, they throw you the ultimate swerve. I thought it was more on par that they win today and then, based off of recent history, find a way to, fumble in against one of these lesser teams. If it ends up being Fairleigh Dickinson, their tallest player is 6'7". Tennessee's got size, but then they can go with a combination of Awaka and Kamwa that could still play small ball against a Fairleigh Dickinson team. They don't have much size. I mean, I think Tennessee's got some options here, whether it's FAU and or Fairleigh Dickinson as they head into the Sweet 16 at the Garden.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned size. I want to make sure to mention this kid. I thought Jonas Adu was really good today.
Yeah. Motivated, playing that hometown team.
And playing, probably, two guys that a lot of NBA scouts are watching. I would say probably, factors into that as well. But I mean, he had 8 points and 5 rebounds, but that doesn't capture the impact he made. I mean, Duke, he gave Filipowski lots of problems with his length. He battled all day long. He affected shots. I mean, I thought AD was really key to what Tennessee was able to get done today.
He's Rob Lewis. I'm Austin Price. This has been the Craven Wings Full Court Press. Tennessee's off to the Big Apple, off to the Sweet 16. A nice win today, a huge win, 65-52 over Duke. Follow full coverage. Rob and Grant have us from Orlando, and they'll have us all week long as they head north to the city that never sleeps. Tennessee will play either Fairleigh Dickinson or they'll play FAU in the Sweet 16 coming up next week.
When you're craving wings, it's got to be Craven Wings. Online at cravenwings.com.